Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Hope that July is going well. The post 4th of July week. Back to work now, right? I think Monday was off, but I have a 49ers roster out in front of me to show you because the 49ers have made a move today. They waived their linebacker, Nate Jerry, who was dealing with an injury earlier this offseason. So I wanted to pop open the spreadsheet just so we could talk about that, show the impacts of it, and then answer some of your questions based on the more recent developments in this 49ers offseason. So we'll make it a little bit bigger. Maybe we could even go full screen with this sucker. There you go. All right, so we're going to erase Nate Jerry. He's right here. I guess some people like when I zoom, so I can do that. Zoom in on the linebacker spot. There you go. I didn't even have him making the team. He's highlighted right there. He's on the right side of the 53-man roster divisions. That means that I didn't have Nate Jerry projected to my 53. So if we remove him, which I'll do right now with that delete, that means that Justin Hilliard, who's an undrafted free agent out of Ohio State, same school as Sherman, moves up a slot there. So if we zoom out just a tiny bit, you see the 49ers linebacker room now without Nate Jerry. Warner, Greenlaw, Al-Shaair are your top three in my projection. James Burgess also makes the team according to what I'm predicting right now. That's obviously subject to change as I learn more. And then the guys on the outside looking in, Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles, Jonas Griffith, Justin Hilliard up a spot on the depth chart, but still not on the team, and Elijah Sullivan. A lot of people think the 49ers might go to five linebackers, which is obviously possible on the 53-man roster. But I do think that Talanoa Hufanga down here, a strong safety who has hybrid linebacker background, along with Marcel Harris, a strong safety who has played some outside linebacker for the 49ers. I think both of those two guys might allow the 49ers to carry more safeties and only four linebackers. I could be wrong. We shall see. But no more Nate Jerry. And it appears that the 49ers waived him healthy. It appears that he passed a physical because they waived him without an injury designation. Remember the last time that we saw Nate Jerry, he was rehabbing out on the practice field during OTAs with an Achilles/foot injury, not a full rupture or tear. It was something that a procedure called Hagelin's procedure could fix before training camp. So I'm assuming that Nate Jerry passed this physical and the 49ers waived him. That means the 49ers have one free roster spot on the 90-man roster. They're down to 89 qualifying players out of 90. So who will number 90 be? A lot of people are asking about N'Keal Harry, the receiver from the Patriots, former first-round draft pick who played with Brandon Ayuk at Arizona State. And my answer to that is, maybe the 49ers like him. Maybe Kyle Shanahan really fell in love with Harry's film. Maybe he'll want to take a flyer on him, but a flyer would cost the 49ers some draft capital because Harry has requested a trade out of New England. He's not happy there. The Patriots don't want to just give him up for free. So it might not be a lot of draft capital. It'll probably be a lower round pick if that does happen. And when you start talking about compensation in that regard, you do have to remember that Harry hasn't been very good for New England over his first 2 years in the league. So it's big name because the guy went in the first round and the guy used to be Ayuk's teammate, and Belichick at one point liked him enough to draft him, but you would still be trading for somebody who hasn't been great through 2 years. That's not to say that Kyle Shanahan hasn't, squeezed value out of players after a change of scenery before, and that's not to say that Kyle Shanahan might not like N'Keal Harry's film. We'll see. But, what's really interesting is that based on the people that I talked to about Brandon Ayuk, about his, rise through the ranks at Arizona State, and obviously he played second fiddle to Harry in that one season before taking over as the main man after Harry left. It seems that Ayuk was the preferred man at Arizona State. It seemed that Harry got more press than the Patriots picked him. Obviously, went high up in the draft, but so did Ayuk. And to me, I think it's clear at this point that Ayuk is the better NFL player. Now, there's the Kyle Shanahan effect. So you could argue, what if Harry's in Kyle Shanahan's system? Maybe he looks good too. Yes, I'll concede that point. Although the same argument had been made for years about players in Belichick's system and McDaniel's system over in New England, that supposedly made receivers look really good. And if Harry didn't look great there, who's to say he's going to look great with the 49ers? So again, it's in Kyle Shanahan's hands. He's got that empty roster spot. If he really likes the player, if he really has fallen in love what the potential of Harry is on film, he can decide if it's worth parting a later round draft pick for him. They'll still get him on 2 years of a rookie deal plus the team option there and in the third and fifth season of his rookie contract, but the third season with the 49ers. And that's, that's affordable. That's worth it and everything if you can get just that. But it's that draft capital that I know that the 49ers are hesitant to part ways with, even if it is a lower round pick. All right, let's go through some of these questions here, and let's start having the questions pour in. I only have a few comments today. I know you guys are probably all at work. I'm sure you're working hard after 4th of July weekend. It was interesting. One of the comments here is that I've been traveling around. It's right there from Chasing Gold. Yeah, I've been out in Nashville. I was in Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. I mean, that place is unbelievable. I should probably even pull up the video of that here on my Twitter page. I think I posted that not too long ago. But then I was in Austin for the 4th of July, and God, that's a booming, booming city. Unbelievable. Somebody told me that they were gaining 182 people a day in Austin, many of which are moving from the Bay Area. And I think I was there right when Austin surpassed 1 million people. And it completely feels like a modern day boomtown on the streets there. I had last visited Austin in 2014. And, they have their main strip of bars called 6th Street. And then they have this other strip that is different that's called Rainy Street. And I had always preferred Rainy Street to 6th Street. It had a little bit more of a calm, a little bit more of an eclectic vibe. Basically, it was a historic district built into, a bunch of former houses. They would have the bars and the music there on Rainy Street. And it was like Frenchman Street in New Orleans versus Bourbon Street in New Orleans, right? The little more laid back option. A lot of cities have a little bit more of the laid back option versus the completely crazy tourist strip. Well, that's what Rainy was in 2014. Fast forward 6-7 years, I show up in Austin again this past week. And they had built like 8 skyscrapers on Rainy Street. The old houses and the bars are still there, but they're just dwarfed by these massive skyscrapers. And every bar, especially on the weekends, is like a 100-person line to get into. It had become essentially what 6th Street and that whole other area of Austin had been when I last visited 6 or 7 years ago. So good for Austin. I mean, the city's booming. There was an awesome soccer game that I got to go to. And I'm just going to go to Twitter here and share my screen so I could show you guys some of the stuff that I did. And I also wanted to show you Circa Resort in Vegas. But yeah, this soccer game, here we go. Maybe I can make it bigger, right? Not sure if you guys can hear the audio. But this was the very first professional win in the history of the city of Austin. So you see just everybody going wild. This soccer team is playing in this brand new stadium, kind of on the outskirts. It's not quite like Levi Stadium, not that far out, but they're playing way out there. Everybody goes to the game. They pack it out. This was the third game in the new stadium, and people just went nuts because they finally got a chance to see the hometown team win. And with a city that's booming and growing that quickly, just surpassed 1 million people, the corporate professional sporting crowd is going to be following suit, right? They're going to be coming. They're going to be trying to get into some of that population base. And let's admit it, sports have a unifying property potentially. They could really bring a city together, a group of people together. And I think Austin, with all the people moving from everywhere there, is going to need that. So it was cool to see that first ever win. Yeah, Matthew McConaughey does own that team. The other thing I wanted to show you was that Circa Resort and Casino. We're just going through my tweets here. Look at all the 49ers uniforms. I guess we talked about that last week a little bit. There's one of my YouTube lives. Okay, yeah, this is Circa in Vegas. Now, this place is absolutely crazy. This is a sports book, and it's the largest sports book in the world. You could see it inside here. Maybe I should make the screen bigger for you guys there. So I mean, you just walk into this place. It's Derek Stevens is the owner. He's trying to revitalize downtown Las Vegas, like Fremont Street, and that's an area that had kind of fallen by the wayside. All the development had moved to the southern part of the Strip, and you just walk in and it's a sports fan's paradise. I mean, it just absolutely blew me away. You have this 3-story tall screen, and then if that's not enough, you have what they have outside at Circa, and that's right here. It's called Stadium Swim. And Stadium Swim is essentially that big sportsbook screen, except outside with a pool party. I wish I would have taken the video horizontally, but you just go upstairs, you take the escalator upstairs, and it literally feels like you are going up into a stadium, except that you show up at a Vegas pool party with a big screen and a DJ. And if the game's big enough, then they'll play the sound instead of the DJ, and the DJ will go on the commercials. But just paradise for sports fans. Had a great time. Went to a Vegas Golden Knights game. And that's been my last couple of weeks, just doing a bunch of cool stuff, bringing you some 49ers content along the way. So we'll bring it back to just me, and we'll go back to some more of your questions here. Yeah, Austin is nuts. I mean, I'm just looking at some of the comments. Austin is crazy right now. Rent prices, I mean, my friend who lives in Austin, he was saying something about the city being fairly pricey. He had a nice place on Rainy Street, but because he came from the Bay Area, it didn't scare him. So looking at the rent prices, I don't want to misquote anybody here. I don't want to misquote Austin's rent prices, but it was just like, whoa. I've been living in San Francisco for the last 10 years. This seems like the lower end of the scale as far as rent, and you're getting all these amenities. You're in the best location. So there's a reason why everybody's moving there, and I'm sure the prices are going to go up. But they also don't have this more essential moratorium on building new apartments like the Bay Area seemed to have for a lot of the last 10 years. It's an issue of supply and demand, right? So the more you build, the better in check costs will be. And I think that might be the case in these cities like Austin and Nashville. All right, let's move back to football here. We have a good question. Realistic chances the 49ers go after Melvin Ingram. Which position is a bigger need for the freed up roster spot, edge or wide receiver? Well, I don't think the 49ers are looking at this in terms of we have one roster spot. We can only address one of these two positions. I think that there are plenty of players later down on the roster who they'd be okay parting ways with if they could get a guy like Melvin Ingram on a veteran salary exception, the kind of contract that could fit within their cap situation. At that point, you just turn around and say, hey, this linebacker that's not going to make the team is extraneous or whatever, and you make the move and you bring Melvin Ingram in. So I think the team would love to take a flyer on somebody like Melvin Ingram, but at the right price. And the guy's coming off a 0-sack season in which he had a knee injury that really compromised his production. And Melvin Ingram is the type of player who has the pedigree to ask for more money than the veteran salary exception. So I think Ingram is waiting out the market. And even though he'd be a great scheme fit for the 49ers, a great flyer at a position of need, they're also waiting Ingram out. They don't have money to sign him for any more, especially with Fred Warner's contract still looming. So I think, the team would love to get deeper at edge. It would love to get deeper at receiver just to make both of those positions stronger. But it's all a cost-benefit analysis. And if you're trading too valuable of a draft pick for N'Keal Harry, or you're spending too much money on Melvin Ingram, both of those things are, actions the 49ers won't pull the trigger on. It's as simple as that. If the 49ers were seriously interested in Harry, what is the most appropriate compensation in a trade? A 5th or 6th rounder? A trade of a player? If New England is interested in a player that the 49ers have given up on, that's of comparable value to Harry. So I can't really think of that. The 49ers had already given up and gotten rid of Pettis. They weren't able to get any trade, value for Dante Pettis. So they had to waive him last year. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head in that immediate category. I know everybody comes out saying, they should trade Raheem Mostert. Well, guess what? Raheem Mostert is extremely valuable to the 49ers, as we should have realized when Jeff Wilson went down. These running backs get hurt a lot. 49ers love their depth in the room. I don't see a good running back necessarily as being expendable, whereas Harry might be expendable to the Patriots. The guy only has 50 catches in 2 seasons. He hasn't been great for New England. So I do think it would have to be a very late round draft pick if the 49ers were to even consider it for N'Keal Harry. So probably one of those 6th or 7th rounders. And at that point, New England might not want to do it. I mean, the Patriots have to want to play ball here too. They control Harry's contract. I mean, he signed the contract. He has to stay there unless the Patriots trade him. There's not that much leverage for a guy like N'Keal Harry, especially considering the fact that he hasn't been great in his first 2 years in the league. So the Patriots can kind of just sit there and say, too bad, we used the pick on you. We're not getting a high enough pick in return for you, so show up and play, or else you could just sit at home and not get paid. So, I mean, it's still a situation in progress, but I think it would only be something that the 49ers do for a very, very lower round pick. What do you think the odds are that the 49ers still give Delanie Walker a chance? I don't think they're high. I think that they signed Michael Pruitt instead when they worked out both Pruitt and Delanie Walker because they felt that there was more upside with Pruitt being a younger player. He essentially replaced Delanie Walker in Tennessee. So I wouldn't think it'd be too high for Delanie Walker, who's in his upper 30s there. Yeah, hey, here's another great point about N'Keal Harry. I mean, he hasn't been the healthiest player. 49ers already have a lot of players with injury issues. So you would be talking about giving up draft capital for another player with some injury issues. Not so sure that the 49ers will want to do that. I mean, they'll explore it. Shanahan and his staff, they watch film of all these guys, especially the guys that might be on their way out somewhere. Again, it's just a matter of cost. And even if the 49ers pick this guy up, please do not start acting like they got Julio Jones and this solves all of their receiver issues, because even if they do pick up N'Keal, it won't. It'll just be tossed in there in a competition with 13 other receivers. There are literally 13 receivers on the 49ers 90-man depth chart right now, or 90-man roster right now. And I wrote about this last week. It's a question of who gets spots 3 through 7, right? 6 or 7, I think, is what they take. And you know that Deebo Samuel is going to be at the top, and you know Brandon Ayuk is secured at the top. Beyond that, it's just a bunch of questions, right? Jalen Hurd is a huge question mark. Juwan Jennings is a big question mark. These are all guys with potential, but they're guys that we're just not sure of. So it's one of those situations where it's going to be a free-for-all beyond Ayuk, beyond Deebo Samuel. If the 49ers can add Harry into that free-for-all at a low enough cost, I'm sure that they're interested. I don't know how much Kyle likes the film, but it would have to be a low cost because of the question marks. And that leads to this. Yes, John Lynch and Herm Edwards have a great relationship. Herm Edwards was John Lynch's position coach in Tampa Bay. Obviously, the 49ers reached out to Herm before drafting Brandon Ayuk. If they're doing their due diligence, then, they can call Herm Edwards up at ASU, and he might be able to shed some light on N'Keal Harry. Let's move on to a question right here. Who can the 49ers land at this point in free agency or in a trade that can fill the Jordan Reed tight end 2 role if Hurd can't play this year? I should probably, if I can open this up, get the roster breakdown back up on the screen to help answer your question. So we will, here we go. There. So easy nowadays to do this. Here's the roster breakdown. I'll zoom a little bit more in on it. So your question is, who can the 49ers land at this point in free agency or in a trade that can fill the Jordan Reed role if Hurd can't play this year? So we'll hide your question, be a little fancy with the technology, and zoom in on the tight end position so everybody can see. There it is. Everybody should be able to see that, hopefully. Okay, so this is receiver 1, receiver 2, receiver 3, tight end 1, tight end 2, and then you have the depth for each position, right? So George Kittle and Michael Pruitt at the top, Ross Dwelly. So I have 3 tight ends making the team. Jalen Hurd I have listed as an honorary tight end. I think the 49ers carry 7 receivers, and in carrying these 7, who I just highlighted, the 49ers will have a guy that can flex positions such as Jalen Hurd to allow them to carry only 3 tight ends. That won't necessarily happen. I'm just saying that's a possibility for the roster. You have other options at tight end right now, Josh Peterson, undrafted free agent, and Charlie Werner, who might, make the team. He made it last year. This is his 2nd season. He's been lifting with Kittle in off season. So maybe Werner's in there. Maybe one of these receivers gets hurt. You only take 6. I don't know. It's all a fluid situation. So take all roster projections with a grain of salt. Tight end 2 role. Anyway, Pruitt is more of a blocking guy, but the 49ers gave him a big $500,000 guarantee. Ross Dwelley has his entire contract, the $920,000 for this year guaranteed. So I think the 49ers are really bullish on Ross Dwelley becoming the Robin to George Kittle's Batman. You look at the other names out there, they're not big names. Jordan Reed retired. Delaney Walker is very old. They already signed Michael Pruitt, but he's more of a blocking specialist. I mean, at this stage of free agency, you're not going to get a star. So you'd rather have a guy who you've developed in-house, who you have an affordable rate, who's learned the system, who's really become muscled up over the last couple of years. I mean, the 49ers strength staff, you can talk all you want about them. They've done a great job with Ross Dwelley, who's done a great job working in the program. And he's made some big catches for the 49ers. So, yeah, I think you're going to see, based on the guarantee that Ross Dwelley has in his contract, you're going to see him catch a lot of passes alongside George Kittle. And then the hope is this guy right here. It comes back down to Jalen Hurd. If Jalen Hurd can, showcase and stay healthy and be what he showed and previewed during training camp in 2019, he could be that ultimate Joker kind of weapon. Even though George Kittle is Joker tattooed on his forearm, I think Jalen Hurd can be a guy that could kind of give the offense adaptability between all those positions. All right, back to just me right here trade for Ertz, again, might be a little expensive. The 49ers are really trying to hold on to the draft capital they have right now. What's up with Richard Sherman? Richard Sherman is in a similar situation, except he's healthy, as opposed to Melvin Ingram, who missed, didn't miss all of last season, but was severely compromised with a knee injury. Sherman came back and proved that he was healthy at the end of the season. But contractually, I think that there are some parallels between the Richard Sherman situation and the Melvin Ingram situation. The biggest one being that Richard Sherman is, a former Pro Bowler. He's a former All-Pro. He was a star in this league for a long time. Melvin Ingram was a star in the NFL as well. Those are the types of guys that still are invaluable additions to locker rooms, that if they are healthy, probably still really have a plus impact physically, even if they are older, even if they do have some injury histories. And because of that, you can't expect them to take minimum salaries like the veteran salary exception. The issue this offseason, because of the salary cap reduction due to all the COVID after effects, is that these guys in the middle who aren't quite superstars anymore, but aren't minimum salary players, are the ones that have had the toughest time securing new contracts that they feel are worthy of what they bring to the table. So, of course, you see the top-end guys making huge bank. Exhibit A is Trent Williams. He made all that money. He deserved all that money. Teams have not been afraid to pay their top-end guys, especially on backloaded deals this offseason. And then you look at the, flurry of other transactions the 49ers made, and those were all 1-year veteran salary exceptions. Jaquiski Tartt came back on one. I think they got DJ Jones back on the qualifying player offer, which is a little bit more expensive than a veteran salary exception, but still one of those offers that is very limited in its scope, but can save you some money if you can find a player that fits into the pigeonhole for the financials of that deal. So you had these flurry of veteran salary exceptions that allowed the 49ers to sign a bunch of guys to 1-year deals and fit it under the cap. And then you had on the other end of the spectrum, Trent Williams with all his money. I think somebody like Richard Sherman, somebody like Melvin Ingram fits right in between. They're going to command some chunk of change. It's going to be higher than a veteran salary exception, and they absolutely should hold out until they get offered that. But at the same time, the teams are having trouble offering that because they can't spread the salary cap hit out over several years like they did in Trent Williams' deal. So for these tweeners, I think you're just going to wait till training camp. Because in training camp, edge rushers around the league are going to get hurt. Cornerbacks around the league are going to get hurt. And then all of a sudden, the market, the demand for guys like Richard Sherman and guys like Melvin Ingram will go up in the moment. And that's when they're going to get the money that they feel that they deserve. So I would say wait for training camp. Still is a chance that Richard Sherman comes back to the 49ers. Well, of course, Ross Dwelley doesn't have the same skill set of Jordan Reed, a receiving tight end. Jordan Reed was a Pro Bowler. Jordan Reed was one of the best tight ends. At one point, he was the highest paid tight end in football back when those contracts were negotiated in the 2016 season. It's unrealistic to expect the 49ers to field an all-star team, a Pro Bowl team at every single position, including the depth spots. I mean, they took the flyer on Reed last year, even though he had the injury history, because they were hoping that maybe that was the upside of the move, right? You'd have Kittle and Reed on the field at the same time, but they were only on the field at the same time for like 5 plays all season, because this is a competitive league. All 32 teams are trying to sign the best players, right? So it's hard to have Pro Bowlers at every single position, which is why you have to rely on developing some of your undrafted free agents, some of your lower round draft picks. And in the 49ers case at tight end, because Jordan Reed quite literally is retired and there aren't, better options just hanging out there. That's why the 49ers' best bet is somebody like Ross Dwelly. Well, we've been going for 26 minutes, so I'm going to wrap this up. Yeah, hit that like button, seriously, right here. Got to get a few more. I think we got 44 in here now. Oh, we're slowly growing. We're almost up at 2,000. Well, I mean, we just started a month and a half ago or so. So I've heard these things can take off exponentially. But yeah, if you're looking at that, go ahead and hit that like button. Get on the Athletics, subscribe. Doing some good numbers over there. Would very much appreciate it. Do you think that Kevin White will realize some of his potential this year? I think the 49ers hope so, but he's one of those 13 receivers. I would say that there are 11 in a free-for-all fighting for 5 spots. So will he make the final cut? Odds are probably against him. But boy, there is some potential there. There sure is. But if he picks up that playbook, he had a chance to get a head start on it last year, and he really fits into what Shanahan is doing and what Shanahan wants to do. I absolutely think you can't rule Kevin White out. But I honestly think that receiver battle is going to be the biggest free-for-all of the offseason. In fact, I should show you our receiver preview. We'll get Matt Barrows on at some point this week to discuss this stuff. Where are we? Because he is co-writing this 49ers preview series with me. This is what we wrote. The surefire names are set, but can Jalen Hurd and Juwan Jennings make some noise? And we talked about how crowded that receiver room is. This is the 49ers yards after the catch per year. I'm trying to zoom in, but it's really hard to. There we go. See it. Oops. 49ers yak per year. Number 3, number 1, number 4 in yak per completion, which means they've been stocking up on the guys that can do it, right? They've been emphasizing short accuracy. Shanahan's offense facilitates yards after the catch, and receivers that can generate you yards after the catch are the most likely to win the position battle and make the team. All right, good questions today. I'm tired. I'm actually off this week, but I'm still going to be doing these because this is my own channel. So I'm not writing any articles this week, but there's still articles coming out, so be sure to check them out on The Athletic. If you want to read that receiver preview, by the way, I am posting the comment right now as a link in the chat window. Copy and paste that or click on it and go there, sign up for The Athletic. We are ramping up. We're only about 3 weeks or so away from the start of training camp, which is extremely, extremely exciting. So I hope to see everybody on these YouTube lives at some point before camp, see everybody sign up for The Athletic. It's only a couple dollars a month, and I'll be out in the sun, getting a tan, sweating a bit during training camp to bring you all of the 2021 49ers news. All right, so thank you, everybody. Time for me to go lay out or drink some water or something else, but we'll figure it all out. Thanks for joining. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll talk to you all next time. Take care. Have a good Tuesday.